Hey, Gary.
Yes,
What do you
sir.
do to improve your jiu-jitsu off the mat?
I like to review. And the way I do that is if I go to a seminar, usually 50% of it falls out of my head and I can't remember anything. So I like to go back and review those seminars at a later date.
Yeah, I wish there was a easy way to retain some of that information, whether we are in a class or a seminar, particularly seminar when they are longer and more complex. There's more layers as the instructors are showing techniques. I wish there was a way so we can go back and review all the details. Is there?
Yeah, I think there is. And the way I do it is RŌL TV. Tons of stuff to review. And it's really a great platform for anything you need.
We've built this platform for over 2 years now, over 500 videos, anywhere between techniques, expert lessons, and we have huge guests like Christian Woodman C and Sophia McDormand and many others. And then also all the live events recorded at the Academy are fully available on RŌL TV. So if you're looking to improve your jiu-jitsu or you're looking to review things from the class or seminar, RŌL TV is a perfect platform for you to gain access to. Go to RŌLAcademy.tv, create your account, gain the access, and continue your jiu-jitsu journey.
Yeah, check it out. It works wonders. When Shawn Williams wanted to train jiu-jitsu, he sought out the best of the best and trained with some of the greatest jiu-jitsu practitioners on the East Coast. Along the way, Shawn became one of the best himself. Listen as he talks about his insanely intense training sessions with legends like Mat Sera, John Danaher, and Ricardo Almeida, their trips to the Worlds in Brazil, and how Renzo Gracie shaped all of their lives with his larger-than-life personality and incredible coaching. Whether training, competing, coaching, or commentating, Shawn brings an incredible amount of skill and knowledge to everything he does. Here's RŌL Radio with the multi-talented, humorous, Renzo Gracie Black Belt, and creator of the Williams Guard, Shawn Williams.
Welcome to RŌL Radio.
And we are live. Gary,
We are.
sir, how are you today?
I'm good. If you are a regular listener, you know what's coming next. But if you are new to the show, if you go to our website, therolradio.com/belt, drop us your email, take a little survey. You are enrolled for a free Fuji gi giveaway. We've given out a couple already. It's the gi of your choice. So there's really awesome products there. Definitely check it out.
All right.
All right, let's go.
This?
Yes.
Shawn Williams in the show. How are you, sir?
Hey, I'm great, man. Thanks for having me on, Thomas.
You doing well?
I'm doing great.
You know
Here in Nashville now.
I know.
Yeah,
you know what? That's the new project you're working on. We're gonna get to that moment. So I think your life kind of unfolded in interesting ways from Indiana to New York, California, Nashville. Now you're kind of bouncing all over everywhere. That's great stuff you're doing. But I think what's even more interesting about your story and your life that you've been engaged in a lot of professional events as a commentator. And a lot of people don't even know that. They hear your voice behind Pan Ams and Worlds and all the other events, but they don't even know that's you. I mean, it kind of, not always. Recently, the video appears in some of them, but way back in the day, it was kind of behind the scene voice. How did you get into that part?
I have the voice of mystery, Thomas. We should have just had a black screen. I don't know because I'm just gonna wear a black tarp like this, and then we're gonna Oh yeah, that guy. That's the guy. That's that dude. That's that dude that I heard commentating on Bouchesh's match.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, to be really honest, the first time I commentated was for Rickson, for Rickson Gracie, and he had this super cool pro event called the Budo Challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And
this was 50 years ago.
It was yeah, exactly. That
just reminds me how old I am.
Yeah, it was like 50 years ago, and I was still 27. But he asked me, and I believe Renzo actually said, "Hey, you should talk to Shawn. He's out there in California anyway." Yeah, he asked myself and Shane Rice went in. We actually did a voiceover for it. We didn't even commentate live for it at that time. I don't think they had. It wasn't quite set up like that. So we went in and did a voiceover for it, and it was a blast. I had a blast. It's something that I've always just I study so much tape and so many guys in jiu-jitsu, so it seemed it was very simple for me to just talk about jiu-jitsu. It is like a coffee talk, and it's quite fulfilling for me to sort of give my I don't know whether it's my approach to interpretation. Thank you. That's exactly the word that I was thinking. My interpretation of what's going on at the time, how I feel about that technique, what I feel like might happen or could happen, and it is a lot of fun. And then Budo Videos, great friends of mine, they began holding using the IBJJF or IBJJF using them to broadcast their streaming big competitions. I believe back in the day it was only Pans and Worlds. And if I'm not mistaken, because it's I'm slipping, my mind's slipping a little. 2006, 2007, I believe.
This was after the Pan Ams and Worlds moved to US, right?
Yes, correct. They did move to the US. I believe it was 2007, but it could have been 2006. I should know that, but it's just been, it's just been a fun journey. And they asked me to do it as well. I said, yeah, of course. And that's really how it started. I mean, they're great human beings. They had a great streaming show, and we just went at it. And it was Budo Jake and myself for the most of it. And then a friend of mine called Caleb, Caleb Karen, he's an amazing human being. He had a podcast early. He had like one of the first jiu-jitsu podcasts. And we just had a blast, man. We just had a really good time. I loved it. Took to it like water, I suppose. And then it just kept growing.
Did you ever feel under pressure that so many people are listening to this and you have to say the right things?
No, I don't. I never feel like that because I feel very confident in my understanding of jiu-jitsu. I was very lucky where I came from. And as I said, I studied, I probably studied enough footage of wrestling and judo and jiu-jitsu for like the entire planet and myself, I just a consummate learner. I like to learn everything. I like to watch everything. So, and then I was fortunate enough to train with literally the world's best. And when that happens, I think it's a perfect storm to be able to bring that and help people learn through competition. That's one of my goals is not to just go, hey, he scored 2 points. I really want to teach people while they're watching, and through those competitions, I feel like I got to do that. And I feel blessed that I get to do that.
And I feel that, once the commentary, even the visual, when we can see you guys talking and having that engaging conversation really helps understand what's happening on the mat. I mean, tell me what you think about this, but often you hear that jiu-jitsu is very exciting when you know what's going on. But for the average spectator is one of the most boring things in the world. It's like, they're just laying there doing nothing. Oh, he moved his foot. So, what do you think about that? Am I right?
100%. You are 100% true. We do not. It is not a spectator sport in the sense judo,
like right. It's not like whoa.
No. Exactly. Oh. I completely agree with you. And it's funny because when I first moved to LA, I was actually teaching some kickboxing and MMA stuff at a friend of mine's place. And the co-owner of that place was a woman. I think she was in her early 50s at the time. And I was trying to get her to like MMA. And she was like, I don't like MMA. But sure enough, as time went on, she started doing my jiu-jitsu class, and we were doing like little standing techniques. And even in the kickboxing, I wanted to teach people guillotines and things like this. As soon as she started to learn what was going on, she became a fan. And when she could then go, oh, that's a guillotine, or watch out, he's going to get guillotined. That's when you win people as fans, is when they know what's going on. Exactly what you said, Thomas. When you know what's going on, you'll sit there. When I sit there at the Worlds, ADCC, I mean, us as real fans will sit there for 20 minutes going like this.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing is happening. But there's this anticipation of, we all know what's going to happen. Is he going to slip his heel in there? Is he gonna, and it just makes it exciting. Now, when you go watch a replay of that, of course, you're not going to go, you want to scrub through it and say, that's where it is. Yeah. But when you're watching it live, if you know what's going on, or a commentator can really help you break down of like, here's what's going to happen. This is what's going to go on. Here's what may happen. Yeah. You're on the edge of your seat the entire time. And 20 minutes of what someone might be like, that was boring. It goes like that. It goes like that.
Yeah, and matter of fact, I actually prefer watching on the screen when these multi-mat competitions are taking place, because when you are at the venue, it's so easy to miss things because there's so many going at the same time. And it's like I find myself so many times at pans or worlds, and it's like you're watching here, and somebody's like, "Did you see this?" No, what happened? It's gone now.
You hear the big roar over here.
There's no rewind now. That
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's always interesting these engagements. But you mentioned something interesting in the very beginning, that you had the privilege to train with the best of the best, and you're not lying about this, because like as I was reflecting before this conversation, literally like. You started with Renzo, and then the amount of names and people that crawl through that mat when you guys were starting is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, like, do you recall the first days on the very beginning when you guys were training as blue belts or purple belts and going through these things? And Renzo was, I assume that he was teaching way back in the.
Oh yeah. Every class. Yeah.
Right. I mean, did you know the magnitude of what was going on around you back then?
No, no, I did not. I went there because he was an amazing human. I actually had a decision to make because, even to go back a bit further, I was in upstate New York. I wanted to play hockey. I started too late. I literally started ice hockey way too late. So I just had a decision to make of like, am I going to keep doing this? I don't even know how many people know about this. Am I going to keep trying to do this? Or am I going to do something that I really love to do, which is martial arts? I've been doing it since I was a kid. I saw Renzo fight, and I know that a lot of people know that. And then I had a real decision. It was either go to California because I knew of Hickson and Hoyce, or go to learn with Renzo. And it just happened to be that he was such a nice, inviting human that I went there. And then I was just exceptionally lucky.
Did you meet him before you start training, or was the training the trigger to meet him?
No, I went to visit in New York. I was actually back in Indiana for the summer. I went out to visit New York City, just to take a trip there. I'd never been there before. And I met him, and he was so warm and inviting. I was like, well, that's it. That's where I'm going to try that. and I jumped on the mats, and everybody was just so nice, but I had no idea. And I really didn't know until I was a purple belt, to be really honest. When we were coming up as a white belt, we had guys coming in all the time. I mean, Hodger's dad was my first black belt I ever rolled with. And he put his knee on my stomach, and I thought I was going to die. But he's very kind, and but we had people coming all the time. Hansel's brothers came in, Half and Hein were coming in. Visitors were coming all the time. And then Mat Sera had just got his purple belt, right? Like within that first 2 or 3 months. And I got to see some challenge matches. So it was kind of wild because I'd heard about all this stuff, of course. But I really didn't know until, and now I got to tell you, when I was a blue belt, it was not irregular. And I would see our purples and belts, which were Matt and Nick Sera and Ricardo Almeida had just recently, Rodrigo Gracie had just come. I would watch those guys they would maul everyone who came up to visit, and they were not small names that would come. These were big competitors and guys that were fighting MMA, and so I would get to see it, and I was, whoa, that's pretty cool. But I really didn't know until I was purple belt. I went down to Brazil as a blue belt to compete at the Worlds. And I came back and I was like, man, maybe I need to move down to Brazil to get to compete a little bit more. It's purple belt at the time. And I just got my purple, I believe is when this happened. And there was a young man named Nino Shimbri who came into the academy, and it was just like, this dude was incredible. I was just like, whoa, what is this whirlwind? Who this guy was just, I mean, he's a world class, but if your listeners don't know who this guy is world class, and was always world class. One of the best guys that I've ever seen on the mats. And he literally told me, point blank, because I said, hey, I went to Brazil to train. I thought maybe I need to go down there and train a little bit to compete. What do you think, Nino? I might. He's like, are you crazy? You must be crazy. He said the best guy to learn from in all of jiu-jitsu is right there. Do not come to Brazil. Now, he probably slapped me if I thought no, but I said, okay. I trust you.
What's your train of thought?
Look at this guy, because he was Renzo's first black belt, I believe. And I just saw, look at the guy on the mat. Look what he's doing, and he's telling me this. I'm good. That I will take your word for it. And it was the best decision I made, to not go down and take away from the time that I had there.
What's your train of thought on this? When this is happening, when he's telling you this, like, are you out of your mind? The best of the best is right in front of you. You can literally talk. You have full access.
Yes.
What's going through your mind?
I think it was, I always felt lucky to be around that because of all the people. But, when you're coming up in it, you don't really know who's coming up with you. I mean, especially back in the day, because there wasn't a lot of competitions. There wasn't, you listeners out there who are in your academy, you don't know your friends that you're making are going to be these lifelong friends. You have no idea what they're going to be yet. And I didn't know that either back then. They're just my good friends. And what was going through my head is I was already a little torn about, like, these are all my friends, all my training partners. But I feel like maybe I should go train with we did gi and no gi, and maybe I want to do more serious of the worlds. And so those were my conflicting thoughts. And then as soon as he said that, I'm like, all right, I'm good. I literally just like put it to rest. Yeah. This guy telling me that, I'm good. And then that was it. I stayed, kept my training going every day. And then more and more world-class guys came in, and we just got to train with, like we were saying, the best of the best. I mean, and in my opinion, at that time, Renzo was the best teacher, hands down, because we had guys come in from other schools that were under big name schools that were athletic, that had been training much, much longer than all of us. And the result was always the same. It was always the same. The guys were like, how do you know all this? Or I don't understand what's going on. It's almost like a different jiu-jitsu. And I don't know. I'm just doing what he taught us to do.
It's not only the skill that instructor has, but also is the attitude and the way how they present themselves. And it's almost like acting. It's almost like entertainment. We talked about in the show several times.
It's the 2-inch stage, right?
Right. But
you get up there, and now you're on the mat, and you've got to perform for everybody.
Right. And Renzo has this unique persona by him. And tell me, you've interacting with him by far more than I ever have, but it's like if he walks into the room and everything lights up, it's like it's just, there are jokes and trash talking and this and that, and then just business, people get beat up and it's just over and over and over, and hopefully you're not on the bottom, because then it's a bad day in the office. But am I wrong?
No, he's an incredible human, period. Like, he was always learning, and not just learning jiu-jitsu, but he was always learning. That guy always were like, he's like books every day. He'd read a new book. He just said, and his persona, or it's massive. And he's exceptionally welcome. Guy was one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. As long as you're on the right side of
I was about to say
the right side of the coin. Yeah, of course. I mean, it's he's, and I think that persona coming from the top down, it infected everyone that was there. So it just made this environment of learning and experimenting and having a good time, but at the same time, world-class technique, and not just the technique itself, but why you do it, when you do it. That's kind of like how I learned how to teach. I mean, because the way he taught me how to teach, and it just it just came down the line.
I was about to ask, do you think that shaped the style and the person that you are today as an instructor and obviously in your personal life?
Yeah, absolutely. Without question. I think it just poured through all of us. I mean, if you look at, so when I came up there were, the guys that have academies or students, quote unquote students, are Ricardo Almeida. Ricardo Almeida has a very successful academy, and he's trained several UFC champions. Mat Sera, is after him, has a very successful academy and has several UFC fighters that are on the world class level, a couple champions, and probably a couple more soon.
He was one himself. So
yeah, correct. Yeah, I mean that's I got a story for you about him too when we went to the Worlds. I'd love to share.
Absolutely.
And then John Danaher was.
Danaher.
I mean, he and I got our black belts on the same day.
Same day, right?
Yeah. So you look at what he's done now with the guys that he's training and just incredible. And then that's my new project. I did a very successful school in LA, and I have a bunch of successful students and taught guys how to run schools, and they're all very, very talented. One of my new goals now is to make some real champions in the competition world, which I didn't really have that goal in LA. I just had a goal of making a slew of great people. Now I want to make some champions. So I feel I'm behind. I'm behind. But you look at
are you saying there's a little competition between you and John going on?
No, absolutely not. I absolutely go and learn from those guys all the time. I think that's one of our benefits of being best buddies. But you look at that, and then that came from somewhere. It didn't come from like, all of us together just randomly learned how to teach jiu-jitsu. It came because there was a person in Renzo Gracie that taught us the right way to do it. He didn't tell us, hey, this is how you teach. But I think all of us just emulated what he did. And then it just became, it's just done very well. It just mastered that. He had that master.
It definitely rubbed off on you and all the other guys because what you guys do for the community and for the students out there, it's I'll stop talking. Story about Renzo and you at Worlds. What happened?
Oh yeah, Mat. This was
Sera.
actually a story about Mat.
Okay.
So when we went to Brazil for the first time, it was 1999. We all went together to do the Worlds. I was a blue belt. He was a brown belt. Because I don't think he gets enough. I mean, he gets credit, right? He's a UFC world champion, but I don't think he gets enough credit in the jiu-jitsu world for like how talented that guy really was in jiu-jitsu. I tell this story from time to time, but when we were in Brazil, he just mauled everybody. I mean, he was a world champion at brown belt. But the unfortunate thing is on paper, they put him as third, but,
really?
They did,
I didn't know that.
If you go in IBJJF and you look, he's as a bronze medalist on the 99 worlds at brown belt, but what happened is he was just beating everybody up. And they wanted to close the brackets. I mean, they the Gracie Baja guys said, hey, we're all teams, let's close. And Mat was like, no, I didn't come down here to close brackets. This is a long trip for me. Yeah. He I remember I have a bit of a photographic memory. So I remember his look when he looked at me like, what is this? What is this? What is this?
That's like expensive.
What do you mean close? Yeah. He's like, no, I came to go. And then they talked them into it and said, hey, no, we're literally this is how we do. We're teams. We don't need to fight each other. We can all just have a gold medal. And he was like, okay. so he got a gold medal, but then on paper, I need to lobby. I need to reach out to Andre from IG. Please change the standings here because Mat really should be first. He really mauled everybody in the way. Anyway, funny time. We had fun times and fun stories there.
Things have changed since then, right? When you look back at the time of even that trip way back 98, you said 97,
99,
99 to what competition is today. What do you think is the biggest change, positive or negative? It doesn't matter. Was the biggest change that you see, in jiu-jitsu? Like what have changed? Right? Often when we enter brand new students enters the academy and they start learning, they start competing. Obviously, their historical view or the perspective of the history is very different than what you or I might have, right? What do you see as the big change, the improvements and the adjustments that have been made?
Yeah, I think the biggest improvement that's, I mean, easily noticeable for, especially for us that have been around a long time, is just the professionalism that is now. My first Pan Ams was in '99 as well. It was in Miami, Florida. To the IBJJF's credit, they've really just upped the professionalism, to rival sort of like what judo looks like. But back then we walked uphill to snow both ways, Thomas. But I'm sitting in my division's supposed to go at, I think, like around 11 a.m. I went at like 9 at night, and we're sitting in this auditorium. I'm just like, we're sitting there waiting on our name to get called. No one knew what was going on. There was no rhyme or reason. And then they decided to do the event in one day. So they somehow, I don't know how they got everybody into the gym, but they somehow, I guess, contacted everybody because everyone showed up. But so they ran a 2-day event, and this decided like mid-event that we're just going to finish it in the same day. And so, we Mat Sera and Ricardo Almeida finished at 3:45 in the morning. That's when we got done, and we were having pizza, and they all won, and so it was all fun. But during that contest, I think if you can go watch, there's probably footage. Nino was there, Daniel was there, Darren Gracie was there. And if you watch some of that footage, you probably can look around, and in the background, you'll see referees on the mat laying down, eating McDonald's. They brought them in like French fries and McDonald's. And so, that's changed. That's changed. You're not going to see that now. You're going to get the luxury of going on a website going, okay, that my division is going to start at this time. And more or less, it's going to be somewhere around 30 to 40 minutes if everything's running right. And that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I think
pretty awesome.
I think that's the same tournament that we talked to Marcel Cruz, and he was saying that like he had an insane amount of fights that day. He started at 9 a.m. He was still going at it at 1 a.m. the next day. Yeah, I don't know how they stayed afloat, without changing, because nobody would be there.
Yeah. I wonder sometimes, if you took under consideration the fatigue and the waiting and all the other things, how the result would be.
Yeah, I don't know. That's
I'm
a good
just
question.
saying. I'm just saying.
It formed the history and the future of jiu-jitsu.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. Right. It's a good question.
Yeah. Another important point is that what IBJJF has done is these city events that they have all around the country, around the world, actually, because they are all over Europe, everywhere, in Asia, and all around, right? Way back early 2000s or late 90s, there was what? Worlds and Pan Ams, 2.
That's it.
Right?
That's it.
I mean, you want to compete, pack up, save up money, and fly out, right?
That's right. That's right. I went to Brazil every year to go to the Worlds because that was it. Pan Ams and Worlds were it. That's right. Yeah, no, they've done a fantastic job. Even the competition scene in general, the ADCC, the WNO, all these things, all Fight to Win. They've all just done a great job of making a much bigger market and allowing more people to get their feet wet and get in there and go for it.
Which is good. It's
awesome.
And ultimately, that's what we want, right?
It's awesome.
I'll put you on a spot, and I'll ask the controversial question: should jiu-jitsu be in the Olympics?
I would love it to be, but it's going to be hard. Just as you mentioned, it's not a spectator sport. They're going to have to really change the rules to make it more exciting. And I don't, it's who knows if it would be the same sport. Right now without the gi, I think ADCC is obviously the premier competition, and it's still not a spectator sport. It's still a sport where if you know what's going on and is exciting, then you're in, you're dialed in. But if it was just, is it just for us? Yeah, then sure, let's make it an Olympic sport. Please do. if we need the world to be behind it, that's gonna be tough. I mean, I think judo in many ways is the same. Judo really, it's more exciting than what ours are because it's visually more exciting. I should say it's not more exciting to me. It's just visually more exciting. but I don't know how many people really, besides the world of judo is very big in the world because of the time that it's had. I don't know how many people actually watch judo. It's never televised really when in the Olympics. So, but that wouldn't be for me to judge. But I would love it to be an Olympic sport as long as it didn't get deteriorated to become something that it's not.
Well, that's the biggest fear in the community
Yeah.
right now. Once a big organization as Olympic Committee takes over, would jiu-jitsu become something else? You know, and because of the rule set, and obviously the entertainment part is a huge part of it because that's the revenue maker. That's what makes money, and it's like this vicious circle, right? So yeah, I'm always curious to see how. What your view would be on this. So thanks for sharing that.
Sure.
Hey, listen, I heard a rumor that you wanted to be I'm going to switch gears a little bit. I heard a rumor that you wanted to be a comic artist. Is that true?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Is that true? Really?
Nice. Yeah, man. When I was a kid, I loved art. I still love art. I just don't do it very often because I don't have time.
I mean, you don't have time to
do it.
What you do?
Yeah,
I do. A bunch of guys. What do you do?
Yeah, that's my art now.
Opening academies all over.
Yeah, man, I wanted to draw comic book characters. So from the time I don't even remember, the time I can remember, maybe 5 or 4 or 6, I started drawing comic book characters, and it was something that I really, really did a lot of. And I even went to art school. That was my first major in college, was art. It was drawing, because I really had a good time with it. But then, things kind of shifted, and I saw jiu-jitsu, and I was like, you know what? Let's go. And then as soon as you get it, that's it. And then everything shifted, like, and a few of my students here, and for some of my friends that also like art, just have sort of expressed something very similar, that their passion for drawing or painting has subsided now that they train more. And because I think it is sort of an expression of what's inside. It's an amazing martial art.
Yeah, it is. And I had these similar conversations with my students, and I have a couple engineers and I have a couple artists, and all of them find the same fulfilling, if you will, in jiu-jitsu, that creativity, that continuous troubleshooting, the engagement of really looking at the big picture and having a vision and so on. And it's quite interesting how people see jiu-jitsu for what it is. It's beyond the steps, it's beyond the motions or grips. There is way more to that.
I guess we could say that we're Picasso's lucky that jiu-jitsu wasn't around full time for him. There would be no more like one-eyed paintings. It would just be like, who's that guy? Who's that one painting that he did before he started jiu-jitsu? It's trash. Yeah.
So what's the story with your new venture? You building a team? You are creating some world champions? Is this jiu-jitsu focused or MMA, or what are you doing with this?
Absolutely. I love both. I'm before I came to Nashville had been sort of on the agenda for a while, just because now we have my wife and I have a 3-year-old, and we knew that LA was a tough place to raise children. And we always wanted to come somewhere where family was a little more important than what it is. Not that family's not important in LA. That's not a fair statement, but it's just not. Yeah. Well, I'm from Indiana and she's from St. Louis, and Midwest values are we've always been very into that. We did a short stint in New York first. Back to New York. I went back to New York because she had a job. And it was very easy for me to say, hey, we're going to stay here for a while. Because I get to train with all these monsters. I can give a hand to some of these guys.
You mean you took the sacrifice for the family to move to New York?
That's right. Hey, sorry, Eddie. Let's just let's go to New York for your job. Yes. Anyway, but and so I was also very fortunate enough to work with one of my best friends named Jamie Crowder, who basically heads up all the MMA at Renzo's. He really coordinates a lot of the training there, and has his own group of fighters. And I've always been super intrigued with MMA. I helped with George and went on the Ultimate Fighter and just loved it. I've been training striking longer than I've been training jiu-jitsu. I wrestled, and it's always been a really fun thing for me to be a part of. So that was a good time. We cornered a couple guys. I got to corner a couple guys, and it was really fun. And I thought, you know what, I need to start doing this more often and build up some fighters, just because it's fun for me. And I find passion in it. But jiu-jitsu is still, that's it. That's still, I want to make some champions. So now I came here in Nashville, and it's just, besides a successful academy, because I'm a big fan of successful academies because they reach out to the community. Fight training and competition training is not it can be community driven, but it's obviously focused on a smaller group of individuals. But it's something that I'm very passionate about. And, I'm going to see how far we can go over here with the group that's come in, and also as we make new people, going to see how far we can take them.
You mentioned successful academies. What does that mean to you?
That's a great question.
What is success?
Yeah, that's a great question. Successful academy, to me, is one that you see people smiling when they leave. That you're changing humans' lives. You hear it all the time. Like, people come into jiu-jitsu, and whatever reason you start, because it's so many different outcomes that you can get. And I always say that I believe that jiu-jitsu is the martial art that, to me, that most sort of symbolizes life. And your life can almost take a proportional, like a linear path to jiu-jitsu. The way you deal with life can be influenced by the way you deal with what goes on in the mat. It's almost like can be almost like a scary thing, like how you handle your training scenarios. If you really dive in and look, like, you can almost see yourself, your life in that, how you handled that. So to me, success is getting an individual and getting them to get out of whatever it might be that they need to get out of jiu-jitsu. So sometimes it's mental health, sometimes it's physical health, sometimes it's confidence, sometimes it's whatever it might be. I think as humans, we all have these patterns that repeat themselves, and sometimes they're good and sometimes they're not good. And if something is repeating itself, I feel like and it's not what you want, it's not ideal. You need to really be in tune with that, and change some things. And I feel like jiu-jitsu really does that. Like, you can be doing jiu-jitsu and you have these patterns that come back around, and they're not what you want. Well, it's an odd philosophical thing, but I think if you looked at your life, you'd probably find the same. If you're having these issues in jiu-jitsu and you're not solving them, you've got probably something is going on there as well. And when you begin to start to open up and solve things, that I think it opens up as well for your life. And that's a long-winded answer to your question, but that's success. Success is more about the person, the individual, getting what they need to get out of it. Because it's so different for everybody.
Well, and I think that's what's difficult from a coaching perspective, from an instructor perspective, that you dealing with, dozens, hundreds, depending on the size of the place where you find yourself in. But you're dealing with all these individuals. They're all different. Yeah. They think differently. They have different goals. They came from different places.
Yeah.
How in the world do you manage all of this to really be able to cater towards everybody and give them what they want? Because they walk into your academy, they see one Shawn.
Yeah.
Am I wrong? I mean,
yeah, no, it's true.
They see you and they go like, hey, and he's like, do you ever find yourself like, John? No. Bobby? No,
yeah.
Pete, yes, Pete,
of
what's
course.
up, man?
Of course. I had a couple of good pre-training things. So number one, I was a bartender before. So which is quote unquote a psychologist, if you will. So I had some pre-training before jiu-jitsu. No, I'm kidding. That was a joke. Yeah, you're right. It's you've got to be, I have some tools to help me remember people's names, but really it's just about being really switched on and engaged when you're meeting them. Or you could go about it like when I first started jiu-jitsu, Renzo called me champ for a little while.
Yeah,
Hey champ, how you doing? And then of course, as you get, then oh yeah, now you're Shawn. Yes, but it's so inviting and welcoming that you're just like, I don't, whatever. He just finally called me, he called me his name, and it was a funny time. But I think you're right. You can't, if I would talk to the instructors for a minute, not just your fans and your audience, you can't solve everybody's problems. We're not meant to do that. I'm not equipped to handle those things. What I can do is I can coach, and I can coach jiu-jitsu, and I can coach. I believe that jiu-jitsu has, and MMA as well. I believe they have challenges. We bring on these challenges and these problems, like you had mentioned earlier. Like I think that's why people get addicted to it, because it's a consistent and constant problem solving that we do every single day. I think those things can be, you can open up thought through your teaching, and you can open up different philosophies through your teaching that are pretty open-ended, but might have a real impact in a different way for different individuals. Like, one guy, as I said, might be there for focus. He gets a lot of focus when he's in jiu-jitsu, or one guy might be there, he's getting a lot of confidence out of it. But if you're able to open that door for somebody just through teaching or through coaching, that's my approach. It's not really, you can't deal with everybody and everybody's problems, but you can certainly open the doorway for learning, because there are several different ways to learn, and people learn differently. But you promote those thoughts, and if you can promote and invoke thoughtfulness in people, they start thinking about things and thinking about problem solving, then hopefully it transcends into a bigger picture, and then that's really cool.
And then there's the other side of the story, right? I mean, each student has a responsibility to really
Absolutely
learn and engage and continue learning, and not lean on the instructor. Maybe some people don't want to hear this right now, but that's the reality, right? Like we can't hold your hand all the time. You have the responsibility of actually engaging in and continue learning, right?
Well, Shawn said open the door, or you often talk about like showing people the path, but they're the one that has to go down it. They have to take it, and whatever forks in the road or whatever comes through, then they have to make up their mind and move forward. So that is exactly right, Gary. I think now I can talk to the students watching instead of the instructors. You got a responsibility, and this is what it is. No, but it is. Voice changed.
You as a student, like for me, when I was a student, because I remember very well, your coach or your instructor, your professor, they're just leader. They're just helping you. They're holding your hand. They're your guide. They're the ones rowing the boat. Ultimately, you're the one in the back steering. They can, we as instructors can lead it there, like you had mentioned. You lead the path, but you lead a horse to water, but it's up to the horse to drink it. Right. And as a student, you must take responsibility. Here's my path on a student was simple. I knew I loved jiu-jitsu. I knew I just wanted to be the best at it. There was no career for it. There was no money. I didn't know what was going to happen out of it. I just wanted to be the best. So when I trained, I trained an insane amount of time. It was just a lot of hours.
How much?
I loved it.
How much?
I mean, in the beginning, when I started, after I started Unlimited, which was after, like, we didn't even have Unlimited when I started. So it was a per class fee until after like 3 months. And then that's when the first time they started Unlimited training was 3 months after I started. And then I did every class that there was. So it was 12. We had a 12 o'clock class, and we would train from about 12 to 3. And then there was a night class that started at 6, and we would train about 6 to 10. And it was only one class each time. So it was an hour of class, and then however many hours you want until you're tired, because Renzo never kicked anyone out. So that was probably 5 to 7 hours a day in the beginning. And then I tell some of my friends this, and they don't believe me until they see guys doing it. And they're like, oh yeah, that guy, I went to Thailand, I visited Thailand, and they train 6 hours a day. I'm like, man, I've been telling you this for a long time. I'm one of your best buddies, and you don't believe me. But anyway, And then when I started teaching, I started an early morning class at Renzo's. I started the 7 a.m. class. I'm an idiot, but I started the 7 a.m. class. Duh. Waking up at 4 in the morning in the freezing cold winter in New York is not necessarily the smartest thing. Well, I did it. Anyway, so then I was there from 7 until pretty much 10 at night because I was done with college. I just said, you know what? I'm done with college. I got all my exercise physiology classes that I needed that are mattering for jiu-jitsu. I'm teaching privates, and John and I stayed at this academy all day long. So then I don't even know how many hours. It was just, it was like a 13-hour day every day, except for Sundays. That was like a 4-hour day. But it was a lot. But what I did when I was a student is I went to my classes. Immediately after class on the train in New York, I took notes. I would write my notes and write it down. And I drew because I like to draw. I'd draw little stick figures. Even if they were quick, I would just draw so it would help me remember. And then I would go to college and I would come back and I would make sure I'd eat good, drink whatever, and get hydrated. Then I come back, I would do my class. And then on my way home, I lived in Staten Island when I first got there, which is a long commute. And so then I would write my notes and draw my pictures. And I did that every day. I wrote notes religiously. And took responsibility to reflect on what I did. So I wrote my problems down. I tried to think about the problems. I tried to solve them first, and then I would ask questions. If I couldn't solve them, then I would ask questions. And I had good leadership from a lot of guys there, but I always feel like that's a good way to go about it. Take notes, try your stuff, try to solve some problems on your own once you have some skill sets. And then if you still can't solve your problems, you're working on it. Next is to go ask your coach and your instructor. Sometimes it's just like, hey, I got a question, but they've not even tried it yet. Take the responsibility to give it a whirl, try on those pants, see how they fit, do the work, and then say, God, I still am having a difficult time here. Then they lead you to the answer, and then now you have to do the work again.
Well, there's a difference between asking for the answer and asking for the guidance towards the answer. That's a fundamentally different thing. And I'm glad you mentioning the notes, because I'm a huge supporter of notes. Like, I'm a huge note taker. I do this daily, all the time, on everything. Gary knows this. He's laughing right now because
you saw me last night taking notes. I learned from you.
I've been preaching this for years now. But you know what's funny? People, like my students, will listen to this episode. They're gonna come to me later and they're gonna like, you know what? Shawn Williams tells me to take notes. I'm gonna take notes right now. I was like, God damn, I've been telling you for 10 years.
Of course.
I heard on the podcast that you're supposed to take notes.
This is how it always happens.
You probably heard it 10 times on the mat already too, right? Yeah.
Yes. This is why you can't teach your best friend, your wife, your spouse, your husband, whatever it is. You can't teach them jiu-jitsu because you're going to teach them and then they're going to learn. My wife's going to learn something from you, Thomas. You're going to teach her Kimura. She'll be like, this is this cool move called a Kimura. Yeah. And you're like, wait a minute.
How come you never showed me?
This is normal. Yeah. Isn't it funny? Isn't it funny?
It's hilarious.
But yes.
It's hilarious.
Notes are so important. So important.
Do you think, and I think this is an important question to ask today, especially as we're going through this pandemic and in-person training was not as available in the past year or so, for some more than others, but we all kind of find ourselves in this situation. Do you think that today's students having access to this enormous amount of videos, is that a benefit or is it a curse?
That's a great question. That it's a yin yang. The best thing in all great things is also the worst thing in all great things. I think when you have something that's amazing, there's something that's of extremely high value. It's going to be that, and it's going to be the other. And online learning is amazing. Because if something was mediocre, so you have the best up here, you have mediocre, and you have the worst down here. The cool thing about mediocreness, if there is one, is that there is no yin yang. It's mediocre. There's no awesome and there's no horrible. There's no opposite because it's in the middle. Online learning is absolutely incredible. But there's a lot of junk online learning. I mean, if I if I don't sugarcoat it, there's no credentials, and I mean, there are credentials, but I got to be honest, even if someone wins a world champion, that doesn't mean they can teach a technique right. I've seen some, I've seen some horrible stuff.
Gary, who did we talk about this? I don't remember, but like, just because you are a world champion does not make you a good instructor.
Yeah, Gustavo Gasparin, we talked a lot about that. Yeah. Like, you can do a lot of great things, but you can't teach. Travis Stevens also talked about it, where he's like, people come up to him and show him a video, and he's like, "Now, I'm sorry, but that's bullshit." And
that sounds like Travis,
doesn't it? Yeah. I thought I misquoted him, but then I listened back and I was like, no, that's what he said. But yeah, I mean, God, you call it a rabbit hole, right? You go down that rabbit hole and you're not learning anything. You're just watching all this technique that you're not really learning anything from. And so you got to go back and find the stuff where they're actually teaching you something, where you can walk away from it learning something.
And I think that's the trick. That's the challenge, in my opinion, right? Like, we have this YouTube, amazing tool. Yeah. But I find myself, and I'm not going to pretend I'm the best out of the best, but I kind of have a couple years of experience here. I know what I'm kind of sort of talking about, right? And like, I'm looking up a video, or somebody sent me a video. I'm looking, and there's this column right on the right side, and I call it a YouTube vortex. And then you're clicking on it, and the next thing I'm watching, like, a shark video for my 3-year-old.
Yes, man.
Like, you know what I mean? I mean,
of course.
It is so dangerous.
Yes, I couldn't agree with you more, buddy.
You mean you watch the shark videos too?
Yeah. Oh man, like, I have a 3-year-old too, man. Yeah. My 3-year-old, like, it's hilarious. He likes Roomba vacuums, man, and he freaking like. So I'm watching. If I watch Jiu Jitsu, it's all of a sudden, like, it's right onto Robo Rock S4, man. S4 Max or something.
I'll stop you right now. In our households, we are into helicopters.
Nice.
Yeah, but listen, hear me out. It's not about the helicopter. It's about the blades spinning.
Yeah.
And he can watch for literally 7 to 10 minutes. The engine starting, and it goes up and up and up. And then he will fast forward. He doesn't care about the helicopter flying. He was going to fast forward the moment that the blades are stopping. Daily event in my house.
I know. And then you got to do it again. Right? Man. It's amazing. It's pretty amazing how their minds work, right? How, like, whoa, man, they can get really dialed in. So
I
wish they dial into something important. My kid watches toys. He watches other people play with toys that he's got in the room with him. I'm like, it's sitting, that exact toy is right there while you're watching that kid play.
It's amazing, isn't it?
But the main reason why I brought up this YouTube thing, because this happens often in my academy. I get a lot of questions. Hey, I've seen blah, 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 blah. And they tell me the name that I've never heard of. That's one thing. But two, there's this video that it's very appealing, very visually stimulating, and so on. How do you find a tool like a video learning? How do you turn it into a benefit for the students, right? And we have these, there's thousands at this point.
Yeah.
Libraries, and some of them are private, paid, free, and so on. What's your view on this? You've been in jiu-jitsu on the mat for so long.
Yeah, I like them. I'm doing them. But I feel like if the person that is on that video is unable to convey, because just the technique is one thing, because people can go watch YouTube. They could go watch myself or you or John or whoever it is, Renzo, teach a technique, watch it, and then go rehearse it, and then come and blurb the same thing on a video. And then that technique might be what you saw Renzo or Thomas or John or Shawn teach, or Mat Sera teach. But if they can't convey why it's done, when it's done, how it's done, and what happens if this happens, then you do your follow-ups, your setups, your follow-ups. If that's not conveyed on the instructional, it's a huge waste of time. It's a waste of time, because a technique is out there. Where the real learning comes in is the use and how to use it, when to use it. Those are the things that will help your training if you're watching instructionals online. my favorite thing to tell people to watch, because I'll recommend John. You know, I haven't watched all the instructionals. There's too many. But I certainly will have some that I would be like, yep, I approve that one, because I know how he teaches and I know what he teaches, and I'm all for it. But what I would recommend, if they said, hey, what about this? I don't know. I haven't seen it. So maybe not. But what I do recommend everyone doing is watching competition, because competition, it's the guys are doing their A games. And you can study habits from a competitor over time, and you can see how they're doing things, why they're doing things, when they're doing things. And then you can go into the gym and try it. It doesn't mean it's going to work. I mean, sometimes competitive things may be an attribute-based thing that might not work the way for you that it does for them, but it'll still give you an idea of what's working at the highest levels, how to do it, when to do it, and why to do it, especially if you're watching habits. I'm a big fan of like watching people's habits, because people ask me all the time, who's your favorite guy to watch? I don't have one. I honestly don't have a favorite. I watch habits of everyone. And then you can pick up some real insight to what people are doing and how and when they're doing it.
Yeah, and I think the interesting part about the habits is that if you think about it on a little bit deeper level, this is the thousands of times that they went through this scenario, this concept, where now they're not thinking about it. This is a very simplified process in their head, but yet it could have, dozens of motions, rotations, elevation changes, whatever the case might be, right? And it really gives you the excellence, if you will, of what they have accomplished over years of decades of training, right? And that could be a goal for one to achieve, or at least have a perspective on.
Exactly.
Beautiful, man. Time flies. We've been at this for a while.
It does, man. This is why I like commentating. I sometimes on those things I commentate for 12 hours for 3 days in a row, and it's just like, let's go, let's keep going. I love jiu-jitsu, man. I can keep going and going. I love this.
Listen,
anyway,
it's been awesome. Great conversation. But before we end, we have a little surprise for you, and we didn't tell you about this. It's coming from the side here. We have 5 questions for you. Okay, quick. If you can just answer first thing that comes to our mind. Some of them are funny, some of them are serious, but it generates an interesting end to the show. Gary will take a lead on this. Yeah. So you are more than welcome to make fun of Gary at any time.
Join the club, man. Everybody else does. That's why I sit here so quietly. I don't want to give people more ammunition.
We need to put the camera much higher so it's just looking down on Gary.
Right. Or just
like Thomas, you need to be picture in picture above Gary, and he's down below.
Yeah. I'll turn the lights off above me and just put a spotlight down, like the light of God is shining on my head. All right, let's do this.
Do my best.
Yes. So any mat you want, but what was it like the first time you stepped on the mat?
Surreal, I guess, because it was at Renzo's. I mean, I did karate for a long time, but like when I stepped on the mats at Renzo's, it was like starting over. It was literally like starting over. I was nervous. I was like, what am I doing here? What am I going to do here? Nervous, excited, all in the same thing. And then surreal, because for me, that guy that I'm learning from stepped on Ben Spiker's head like a few months back. And I'm like, I just saw that guy win on TV. This is crazy.
Cool. All right. What was your most rewarding achievement? Jiu-jitsu related, doesn't matter.
Oh, my child, having my son.
This is mind-blowing, because I think literally short of handful, this is the answer that everybody gives us.
Yeah. Dude, it's you guys know, most incredible thing on the planet.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Have you ever wanted to quit?
Quit jiu-jitsu? Yeah. Quit anything?
Well, we already heard about college.
Wait, I asked you a question. This is like the Monty Python question. When you ask and then I ask you, you're going to fly. You guys got to make him fly off the freaking mic.
Yeah. I got to teach class in 2 hours, so I got as much time as
jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, but jiu-jitsu.
Quit jiu-jitsu? Yeah. No, never.
Why not?
Because I have a mindset that I always had a mindset of positivity. It was never, I've been frustrated. Yeah, man, I've been frustrated before, but never in my life that I say I want to quit that, because I've always been very positive about the approach and what it gives me. And it helps a lot of different elements, not just like, can I beat that guy? I've performed disastrous before on the mat, but that doesn't make me want to quit. I just want to get better.
Nice. All right. Describe your feelings when you received your black belt.
I thought completely that I had no business being a black belt. It came very quickly, but then I heard Renzo. He had a little speech, and then I again, it was sort of a surreal experience, because I kind of almost thought that I would never get that, even though I didn't ever. I was like, that's just way away. I mean, even when I was a brown belt, and I still just thought it was way away, but there was like a hint of it, and so maybe I picked up on the hint. So Renzo told me one time, because I was only a brown belt for like almost 6 months, like a little over 5 months, and he said, "Do you know, I was like, what does that mean? Does that mean I suck? Or I was only a brown belt for 6 months." That's what he told me. And I'm like, I've been a brown belt for 6 months. Does that mean I suck? Does that mean I'm terrible? Oh no, rats. Maybe I should quit. I'm kidding. But I was elated. I mean, I don't think I cried or anything like that, because I really did feel like it was only the beginning, the real beginning. And I feel like that's kind of true.
And it's a lot of black belts describe it in that sense, that
once
you achieve this, it gives you a responsibility to really look at what you've done and refine it, start over again. The new journey begins. Did you feel the same way?
I did. And I felt like myself. Now, I've been a black belt for a long time, but even before this, I felt like my first 3 years as a black belt, I learned more and got better at that time than I had all of the previous 5. So yeah, I just felt like this is the beginning. I feel like you just really grow as well. I feel like you get much better, much faster.
Not only as a practitioner, but as a person, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Do you think it's easier to get a black belt these days?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think it depends on the person, like, God, I tell you, it wasn't easy, but I mean, I broke my face, my jaw, my muscles,
you tell me this now when we're finishing the show?
Yeah, man, I broke my jaw in the middle of class. I was a purple belt. It was disaster. Hens will tell me he's going to fix it. What a mess. He had the right idea. No, he didn't. I asked him to take me to the hospital because my teeth were pointed straight forward. Oh, jeez. But he actually had the right idea to do it. Dr. Renzo. But yeah, I do think it is easy. Yeah, it depends. Is it easy for me? No way, man. When you come here or you went to LA, like the guys will tell you, no, it's not easy. I don't make it easy. Now I know that people are different. Like it is the beginning, but I still don't make it easy. I still don't believe it's easy, because how long are we doing jiu-jitsu? I'd like for you to do jiu-jitsu for your whole life. So if you're 30 or 40 and you start and you get it by the time you're 50 and you're going to train until you're 80, you're still black belt a lot longer than it took you to get it.
Very true.
So there's no hurry.
Great. Gary, there's still.
You hear that? There's no hurry.
There's still hope for you, Gary. There's no hope for me.
I quit. I'll turn the lights off again.
Last one.
We're talking about belts. Do you wash your belt?
Hell no. I don't.
That was a harsh no.
No, I don't. And I don't. To be really honest,
topic. I mean, it is fairly split. I mean, it's gross.
It's disgusting. And I don't care really either way. I don't have that like real set stigma that like, you can't wash your belt. That's washing the years away. I don't have my original black belt. I can't even wear it anymore. It's like broken half. Mm-hmm. So if I had that, I would wear my original black belt. I would never take that belt off, but I can't even wear it. Literally, it's white. So I don't have that. So if people wash their belt, that's fine. I actually think that it's too small and it's rubber and I hang dry it all the time. So, I wouldn't be upset at somebody that washed their belt. Nah, I'm not into that stuff. Yeah. More about what's inside here than what's around your waist.
Shawn, that was a very long justification.
I know. I'll just cut it. Just be like this. no. And then you can just like cut it at that. That's it. Shawn just got his face right up there, his mouth, and there's a no.
Listen,
No.
This was a blast. I mean, I love this conversation. Thanks for really sharing a lot of the wisdom, because there was plenty of it. I'm sure you saw me taking notes. There was a lot of good stuff that I heard personally, and I think a lot of people will benefit from. But more importantly, thanks for taking the time out of your busy day, because you have nothing else to do.
I'm sure.
They hang out with us. And thanks for putting up with Gary. I'm a cool guy. He's not, so you know how that works. But anyway, if you're ever in the Chicago area, what?
So what time are you getting here today?
There you go. See what I have to put up with every single day.
Yes.
If you're ever in Chicago area, let me know. Now you're in the Midwest. You're not that far away, but let me know. And I would love to have you in my academy for seminar, whatever the case might be. And
be awesome.
It would be great to reconnect once again.
Well, that'd be awesome. And Thomas and Gary, I really appreciate your guys' time, and thanks for having me on. And it was a blast. I feel like we just talked about. We just had a laugh the whole entire time.
It was a good time. It was a good time.
We'll have to have another one when we actually talk about jiu-jitsu.
I know, right?
No, I'm kidding. That was a great time. I really appreciate it, and the same goes for all of you guys. You're ever down in Nashville, this is your house.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much. Real quick, Thomas, did you ask, where can people find you?
Yeah.
My website is ShawnWilliamsBJJ.tv, or Shawn Williams BJJ is all my social media. So I'm creating a whole bunch of stuff right now, and it'll be even on my social media, it'll be out, and hopefully people will take advantage of it and what I have to say. If they like what I have to say or put up with my horrible humor, that's where you can find it.
Nice.
Love it. Go follow him. Awesome stuff coming from him. So, Shawn, thank you for being here once again. Take care of yourself, and we'll see you soon.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you for listening to RŌL Radio. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to leave us a review and help us make the show even more amazing. For future episodes, check out our website and follow us on all major podcast platforms. Take care.